Welcome to Speak of the Devils, the premier podcast for Sun Devil football. I'm Brad Denny with 3TV.
And I'm Joe Healey with DevilsDigest.com.
Joe, that was more like it. That was, some steps in the right direction. But I guess the question is, were those steps enough?
Yeah, a lot of folks, of course, after that agonizing loss at Mississippi State a couple weeks back, were really looking at this Texas State game, even though, it's a lower conference caliber team hitting the road to Mountain America Stadium. There was just a lot of concern that this is like not just a must win, but must look good doing it kind of game with the Big 12 slate on deck. And, generally speaking, by and large, ASU passed that test. It wasn't a perfect game, but there was a lot to be pleased with, especially in just how the staff handled things and some of the adjustments that were made and the simplicity that ASU had and was successful with. We'll obviously break that down in our game recap. But, after the first two games of just a lot of folks just really with red in the face and screaming either internally or externally for certain things to occur. There were some developments last weekend in that victory against Texas State. So that is encouraging, but it's a new day. It is just a new slate. Big 12 season starts now. So ASU's heading in with some momentum, but also knowing that they really got to prove themselves if they want to get on track to defend that Big 12 title.
And now it counts. Big 12 play is here. ASU's heading to Waco, Texas, face Baylor. We'll be diving in and previewing that game and also talking with Baylor insider Zach Smith. We'll also be talking to a couple of key Sun Devils, linebacker Keyshaun Elliott, get his take on the defense, have a pretty nice bounce back effort. And Demarius Man Robinson, the freshman running back who made his Sun Devil and college debut, had a couple of nice looking runs there. But Joe, let's dive into the news. And one of the key factors in that victory and one of the best performances in the entire country, but also the best in the Big 12, Jordan Crook, the conference defensive player of the week.
Yeah, man, he was really, really active, and he's someone that's been just such a blessing for this program since he really got involved in the action last year. I know, it took a little bit for him to, truly get into the swing of things, but man, he is just a fierce competitor. I think I don't have the exact numbers. I think about a dozen tackles, 3.5 for loss with a sack.
12 tackles, 3.5. Yeah.
Yeah. They're calling his name a lot. And, that was one of those things as far as, what I mentioned a moment ago about aspects of this team that fans were, hoping they would see on the field that they hadn't really seen too much of for those first two games. And the way that ASU attacked the backfield against Texas State was a significant improvement over those first couple games, and Crook was the leader of that with those 3.5 TFL. So it's awesome to see him get the recognition that he deserves, and hopefully that's just something that keeps this entire defense hungry and really fierce, because they're going to get a test this weekend in Waco.
Yeah, it's kind of some more parallels to last year of just kind of this team kind of improving week by week and taking some steps forward, and Crook a huge part of that, and really just kind of a heat-seeking missile all throughout Saturday's game. One quick note on the injury front: Kyson Brown, that we can report, was out at practice earlier this morning. That was, we record this on Tuesday evening. The official injury reporting for the Big 12 Conference is starting. I believe the first one drops sometime Wednesday. There'll be some additional ones leading up to game day. So this, of course, is new, kind of NFL style with the player availability. So that'll be something to monitor, with ASU being dinged up a little bit at other positions across the lineup. Some scheduling news, and this was a little bit way down the road. A little bit. The Florida Gators have canceled their home series with ASU that was initially scheduled for 2028 and 2031. However, there are still 6 SEC games left for ASU. The next couple of years, 26 and 27, would be against Texas A&M, 29 and 30 against LSU, and then 32 and 33 against Texas. Now, we'll wait to see, of course, with the SEC moving to 9 conference games, with the caveat that one of their non-con must be against a Power 4 opponent. Florida, obviously, with their Florida State, Miami ties there, didn't really need ASU for that. So as of right now, Texas A&M, I think ASU is the only one currently on that schedule. So, again, we'll see if those stick, but still 6 SEC games to look forward to potentially.
Yeah, I feel like maybe we should start taking bets or some sort of wager of how many of those games will actually be played. Longtime Sun Devil fans certainly know the whole ordeal with that LSU return game from 2005. That still hasn't happened. I'm curious if that's going to get, bumped down the road as well, or just axed off the schedule. I mean, it's generally somewhat understandable, but I think you asked this question of Graham Rossini at the live show, if I'm not mistaken, because that news, I think at that time, was fairly fresh about the conference games. And so, yeah, we shall see. You certainly hope that things can stay as they are for at least that immediate foreseeable future, because when it comes to college football, scheduling teams, that is like a multi-year process, so we've, again, getting very far in the weeds here, but I always think back to like 2010, if you all recall, that ASU actually had 2 FCS opponents that year and was denied a bowl game despite being 500 after that James Brooks block party against the U of A. And that was because San Jose State, I believe, bailed on ASU at the 11th hour to play it was Alabama or Wisconsin. I forget what it was. They got a big payday. Anyhow, like, those things can happen on short notice. And in this game, short notice is like anything, a year or two, prior to the event. So hopefully those A&M games still stick around, and the others as well. If not, we'll see what happens, and we'll see if maybe ASU happens to dip into some old like Pac-12 opponents, or California teams, or something that could be the rejuvenation of some old rivalries.
Graham Rossini has told me that he wants to get some more of the old legacy Pac-12 game or teams back on the schedules in the future. He specified the LA schools, and heck, I mean, we get UCLA on the schedule. That's a guaranteed dub.
Yeah, that'd be good for anybody. My goodness, that itself is so wild. And yeah, that's why I'm, and I hear that obviously he got fired, Virginia Tech did, and the people are talking about Michael Vick, and I just feel like folks need to kind of slow their roll on this whole like former star player who has very, very minimal coaching experience thing, because Colorado ain't doing too much right now either. So, but that's a different topic for a different time.
All right, so before we kind of pivot and look back at the ASU's victory over Texas State, one other recruiting note to pass along. ASU's 2026 edge commitment from Mickey Williams up in the Bay Area is no more. He has publicly announced via social media that he is decommitting. It's probably one of the most well-written decommitment notes app tweets I've ever seen. Very eloquent, very gracious. Just said it wasn't a good fit in his words, and he's just keeping his options open, and was very complimentary of ASU, but apparently not enough to stick with the pledge.
Yeah, I actually didn't. I saw the the news about it. Didn't read the in depth of it. Was there did he get apart correctly?
That's
the one that always gets me is apart as in APART, not a space PART, or the that being said type of thing. Just the little like beer drinking games on these decommitment announcements that if they bring them, you got to take your shot. But yeah, those things happen, and it's just. It's kind of unfortunate, but it's also just responding to the nature of the beast. And I think a lot of us are just not to say that we're like tuning out high school recruitment, but it's just something that between the initial process of it and getting verbal commitments in advance of signing day and the transfer portal, it just seems like there's certainly less excitement about the high school signees or even commitments, because you got to hold on to their commitment during from whenever they commit to the point that they sign. And then from there, anything's possible. I mean, we saw from like Kenny Dillingham's first recruiting class. I mean, I think most of the top signees that ASU had all transferred. Now, granted, they aren't doing too terribly much elsewhere, but again, it's a whole process, and it's something that I think a lot of fans are kind of adjusting to. And it's different than it was, 10, 15 years ago when you get these commitments and like you already start building the future of the program in your mind. I think folks are a little bit more calm about that process now. So, Brad, ASU has done a great job protecting and defending its home. I mean, ASU has not lost at home since the 2023 season. And if you want to protect your home, there's one way to go. That's with Nice Pest Company. Not only do they provide incredible service, but it is a business owned and operated by ASU alumni and die-hard Sun Devils. Be sure to check out Nice Pest Company. They serve residences and businesses all over the valley. Check this out, Sun Devil fans. You can get your first service for just $42, with 100% of those proceeds being donated by Nice Pest Company to ASU's Sun Angel NIL Collective. So support those who support what you love. Do business with some fellow Sun Devils with an incredible reputation who, just like you, want to do their part to help Sun Devil athletics to thrive and to help the Sun Devil community. Nice Pest Company has sent well over 100,000 bugs to their final resting place. That number's got to be higher. I need to check. We need to get like that old Simpsons episode with like the death toll that stays at 0. We need to get that at a higher number. I'm sure it's much, much higher by now. They've got over 200 5-star Google ratings. I'm sure that number's skyrocketing as well. So overall, what I'm saying is you can rest easy knowing you and your family and your home are in great hands. So whether you've got scorpions, bed bugs, cockroaches, whatever sort of varmint or critter under the sun that might be visiting your home, or if you just want to make sure that you do not get an unwanted house guest along those lines, call Nice Pest Company. Let them do the dirty work so you can have the peace of mind you deserve. It's always a nice day to support the Sun Devils, and with Nice Pest Company, it's always a nice day to be bug-free. Check them out online at nicepest.com for a free quote, and be sure to follow them on Twitter and Instagram at Nice Pest Company.
And one of the key people that have been responsible for ASU's success in protecting their home has been linebacker Keyshaun Elliott. After Tuesday's practice, caught up with Keyshaun and chatted about the defense's big showing on Saturday and what lies ahead in Waco. All right, so the defense looked like it kind of felt to continue that momentum from the second half of Mississippi State. When you guys were reviewing the film, what jumped out to you about the defensive performance against Texas State?
Yeah, I think we, put another game together, playing as a full defense, and putting 4 quarters, played good defense from the first snap. You really like to see that. I feel like there's 11 guys just doing their job out there.
The run defense looked like it gave up a little bit more than the first couple of weeks. What were some of the things that maybe you saw there that had allowed the Bobcats to have some success?
I mean, outside of one run fit, which I'll take the blame on it, I mean, it was really just the quarterback was affecting us. He had an explosive play on us. They came in and they ran a little bit different stuff than what we thought. Anything that we haven't seen before, so we just got to be better as a defense, fit that up. But I felt later in the game we made the adjustments that we needed to, and, put the game together.
Obviously, through 3 weeks, the non-con portion of the schedule. What have you learned about this 2025 version of the Sun Devil defense as opposed to last year?
We got a lot of returners, so really you can do anything. There's a lot of guys that I can trust personally. I know they can trust me. There's a lot of people that can play football too. So there's a lot of things that we got ahead in front of us. But I think we're really good defense. We can fly around and put full games together.
5 sacks overall, 10 TFLs. What do you think allowed the success to have the defense make so many plays behind the line of scrimmage?
I'd say it starts with practice. We had our best practice in terms of energy, people running the ball, making plays, turnovers, all that. And you really saw that, we had 2 turnovers, so I think we haven't had any before that, And it showed. It all starts in practice, and I felt like last week was our best practice. We got to take that on to this week.
Would you say learning under Coach Ward and Coach Cooper has really helped you better your game this season so far?
Oh man, this is my second year technically under them too, and I feel like my football knowledge. I thought I was smart before I got here. Looking back, I don't know football, so that's how much they've taught me the game of football. And just in terms of development's crazy. Looking at my film in previous years to now and where I'm at, just both mentally and physically, they've helped me a lot. And
Year 2 of playing alongside Crook, and then obviously he gets a Conference Defensive Player of the Week. What is it like just playing with you guys? Have that now that in that second year having that chemistry, that rapport?
Right. We played a lot of football together. We're on the same page. Once we're talking, we're playing fast. And I feel like you guys saw that this week. We were playing some good football, and Crook had a good bounce back week. I was excited for him. Coming off that, and we expect that out of him. He's one of those guys that can do that every week.
To kind of piggyback off that, Keyshaun, you said it playing fast, and I asked Coach Dillingham and even Coach Ward. Not that you guys, in your time here under Coach Ward, have played slow, but did this seem like kind of like the fastest and not that you guys were undisciplined, but the fastest disciplined game that you guys played as a defensive unit?
I think everybody's just, they're starting to buy in and really understand. This defense is, a really detail-oriented defense. So, I was telling some of the coaches, like even last year, I was struggling, and there's some areas of the defense where I had a little misconfusion. So, I think a lot of us have 2 years under our belt now, so it's a little less thinking. Now we can just go out there and play ball.
You talked about your time before coming here at ASU. I didn't realize you were so versatile in high school, honors at linebacker, punter, quarterback. How much would you say your versatility helps your game?
In terms of football knowledge, I feel like playing, quarterback helped me a lot. You understand what offense is doing. I understand. I know a few guys that I played with previously that, didn't even know what counter was. They didn't know what gap scheme was. So, as a quarterback, that really just helped me enhance my knowledge for the game of football.
And they brought up playing along Crook. You've also got Cyrus rotating in the linebacker core. How's that bond, that leadership in that linebacker room right now?
It's just a group of guys that played a lot of football at multiple schools. We really created a relationship with each other. I would do anything for them, and they would do anything for me. That's the kind of relationship we have. That you take that onto the football field, you can go a long way.
looking ahead to this week, going on the road, another hostile atmosphere. From that Mississippi State experience, what do you guys feel that you took away from just like playing in front of a raucous road environment?
I'll speak on the defense. I mean, I feel like we responded well. I've been in many situations where you go down big, 17-0. There's no chance in hell you're coming back from that game. So I just like to see that poise out of our defense. They scored. Okay, let's go back out there. Let's look at the iPad. What do we need to fix to stop that? That's why you kind of saw that second half. We put everything together. We understood what they were doing, how they were going to attack us. So I really like to see that out of us.
And then, of course, Baylor has a pretty potent offense. What jumps out to you about what that attack does on, like schematically?
Yeah, I think they can beat you with anything. They can attack you in the run game, in the pass game. Quarterback's got a good arm. He's been in the system, so he knows what he's doing. Delivers a good ball. They got a good wide out. A few of them actually. They make good plays. So yeah.
Well, Sun Devil fans, we are kicking it into overdrive, into Big 12 season. ASU's journey to defend its Big 12 title starts this weekend. And if you're jonesing for a new vehicle, like you're jonesing to see ASU defend that Big 12 title, well, then your first and only call needs to be to Jones Auto Group. Jones has been servicing the state of Arizona and the Sun Devil community for more than 50 years with multiple locations across the state. It is a fact. Jones Auto Group was the first and original provider of vehicles to Sun Devil student athletes for NIL purposes. And it is your support that enables them to continue to do that year after year. In addition to their unwavering support of Sun Devil athletics, Jones Auto Group offers unique tax advantages due to their dealership locations, and that can save you some big money. They're located in an area where the tax rate is lower than it is in the general Phoenix area. When you're buying a vehicle, tax dollars adds up. So what can be better than that? Working with a fellow Sun Devil who not only take great care of you, treat you like family, maybe talk a little Sun Devil football with you, and also put you in a spot for some possibly big savings. So here's what you do. You contact Parker Jones, the owner, the GM, third-generation ASU alum and diehard Sun Devil fan. He wants to hear from you. He wants to help you skip working with the salesperson on a car lot or skip some really cold online experience. He wants to help you out. So take down his number, hit him up. Shoot him a text, give him a call. He wants to hear from you. 602-881-8998. Again, 602-881-8998 for Parker Jones of Jones Auto Group. You can browse their inventory of new and pre-owned vehicles at jonesautocenters.com. Jones Auto Group, Arizona's best since 1970.
All right, Joe, let's review ASU's victory over Texas State, completing the sweep of the home and home series. A very solid win. The offense made some good strides. The defense rebounded from a night in Starkville in which they gave up a number of big plays to basically giving up nothing. Explosive. Several steps overall in the right direction, and I believe ASU covered the point spread. But I think there's some lingering questions. Maybe some wait and seers are still present as to what this 2025 group of Sun Devils looks like.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of improvements and a lot of pluses, but still some question marks. I mean, obviously, the ground game, the run game, even in Kyson Brown's absence and the way that ASU was just deliberate and intentional and went with that, that was a major, major plus. My goodness, Sam Levitt must have been watching like some old Allen Iverson clips or something like that, because I lost count of how many moves he was putting on defenders just to shake guys out of their shoes. Obviously headlined by, I mean, that was one of the most single impressive plays, just as far as like feats of athleticism, that I think I've ever seen. The touchdown that he threw to Jordan Tyson on both ends. And I was telling my buddies, that's one of those deals, like, you're watching a basketball game and the point guard makes some amazing, like behind the back, old Jason Williams, Sacramento Kings type pass, and you're open for a jump shot. Like, you make the shot. Like, you do not miss that shot. So like when Jordan Tyson got that ball after the move that Levitt put on to get the completion to him, it's like, you got to find a way to get in the end zone. And thankfully, JT is one of the best receivers in college football, made that happen. So that was tremendously impressive. ASU getting after the quarterback and getting in the backfield, very, very impressive. I mean, we'll go through, things a little bit more incrementally. As far as the things that just stood out to me, as far as, areas, well, what I'll throw in before I get to the areas of concern, getting the tight ends involved.
Nice.
How about that? Breakout game for Shimon Mateer. And, the two things that really stood out to me as areas, for continued improvement. Number one, it's still just coming up with nothing, trying to find, a number two wide receiver at that position. finishing drives. Obviously, especially in the first half, ASU kind of stalled out in the first quarter a little bit. They'd get into Texas State territory or near it, and just the drives wouldn't completely come together. So, those are some of the ones. And then just still, man, this like devastating thing that ASU has had by just getting so close to huge, big game-breaking plays, whether it's a kickoff return, whether it's a deep touchdown that should have been, and whether it's just a timing issue or penalty. So, rattling things off there, a lot of good and still some areas to, I don't want to say have concerns about, but it didn't solve all the problems, but makes you feel pretty good, at least going into the Big 12 opener.
Yeah, kind of like last year, nothing was solved in a week's time, but on the cumulative pullout and kind of like the big macro view, things continually got better. And so far, this is a team that's continuing to get better. Now, ultimately, how good are they going to be remains to be seen. But you talked about Sam Leavitt, and that is the guy that was under a lot of scrutiny coming off his career worst performance at Mississippi State. The coaching staff, was talking about working to get him in a rhythm. They collaborated well. Kenny says they cut down the playbook by about 25 to 30%. And, I thought that was evident. You got Sam looked comfortable, seemed to get some of that swagger back. You mentioned the success of the ground game, 245 yards, but he didn't have like the best statistical game, but it was solid, and it was mostly mistake free. Certainly no turnovers. 15 to 25, 188 yards, 2 scores. The scrambling was great, 59 yards there. Now, I think that also maybe tails into some of the concerns with the offensive line, especially the pass protection, like some of his fantastic escapes are maybe covering up there. But I thought overall he looked probably the best he has looked all season. That stat line would look a lot better if Jaron Hamilton reels in that 84 or 86 yard touchdown late. That was just another one of those there's those what could have been, and just if that touchdown score goes, how much different does the narrative and the vibes feel around this team heading into Pac-12 play or Big 12 play? We'll remain to be seen. But I think right now, there's a lot of kind of nervousness around the sophomore slump, and where we sold a bill of goods with Sam Leavitt. But I think what we saw there with a simplified approach, a focus on the ground game, and not having to put all the world's pressure weight on his shoulders, I think the results were good.
Yeah. And, it's like I say, sometimes you can what if your way to winning the national championship every single year, thinking that you deserve it. But, there are only just a few plays that separated this from being the 34-15 game that it was, from ASU scoring, close to or beyond 50 points. Those 2 plays alone. And if you finish some drives, again, that would make it a near perfect game. But, ASU was not terribly far from that. And that I think would have helped the narrative just to break 40, for the first time, I believe, for the year. That would have helped. I don't know that it would have made a world of difference. I think all in all, a lot of fans, and rightfully so, have the mentality of like, okay, like that was cool. That was good. I'm happy with that. It's not an A+++, but it was solid. It was certainly better than the first 2 games. And of course, much, much better than the defeat at Mississippi State. But, that joy lasts a short period of time, because no matter what the outcome there is, you go out to Waco and you need to get it done there. So, that win over Texas State is not going to last you for 2 weeks. But, again, it's a team that gave ASU a heck of a ball game, as we know, in San Marcos last year. A lot of different talent on this Texas State team. So that's, something that, just a little bit of difference this year versus last year, but didn't have to go through the chaos of last second crazy play, that sort of thing. So that part was good. So, yeah, all in all, just a lot to be happy about. Ghost Rouser also getting in the double-digit tackles, and the fumble recovery that he had. You're getting 5 sacks as a team, 10 tackles for loss, so you're getting a lot of guys involved there. Just the defense did better at forcing turnovers between those 2 fumble recoveries. The one by Fight, I think it was kind of like a trade-off to where it basically would have been a fourth down play that they botched the snap. So it's like you kind of get the extra tick in your stat book. It would have been ASU's ball no matter what, but. It's something you can be happy with. And as far as, Sam Leavitt, I was pleased with the performance. Like you said, it wasn't a perfect thing, but he just wasn't, making quite as many errors. The deep ball, he did as much as he could have in that circumstance. You can't put that incompletion on him. There still were some instances where there just wasn't a great connection. I think there, if I'm not mistaken, were some continued issues trying to get the ball to Malik McClain. That connection or lack thereof is something that is just absolutely baffling to me. and hopefully they figure it out. But I do remind myself pretty often, you think back to the first 3 games of last year, and I was saying this, a lot with friends last week, might have mentioned on the show. I mean, it wasn't until that Texas State game last year that ASU hit that first deep ball. Remember those first couple games, like there were just timing issues, especially with Jordan Tyson, that Levitt just couldn't get going. They got that one deep one at Texas State, and it was kind of, off to the races from there. So hopefully that can still, evolve, because to me, that's going to, as time goes on, if we continue to see, a ton of attention to Jordan Tyson, getting the tight ends involved, which is good, and running backs, and like no other wide receiver on the roster with more than 1 reception. I mean, that's the outside of Jordan Tyson in this game last weekend, Malik McLean's 8-yard catch was the only other reception by a wide receiver. That needs to change.
Yeah, well, there was, the big headliner playmakers were making the big plays. Malik Brown, 144 yards, a career high, that 75-yarder. It's wild to think, he had that would have been 75-yard catch and run touchdown, would have had that punt return touchdown. I mean, this guy in 3 games would have had just like these 3 massive game-changing plays. So he stays healthy. There's going to be a lot more of those electrifying moments to come. And Jordan Tyson, for the 6th time, I believe, in his last 9 games played, topped 100 yards. That catch and run, or that hurdle play, that was that jump midair. That's just like, wow. Enough cannot be said about just how ridiculous that play was.
Yeah, and I think Tyson got to 100 like at halftime, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Malik Brown. I mean, he's playing 5-star ball right now. I mean, this player that you're seeing for Arizona State, I'm sure, is the player that USC was hoping he'd get when he was a 5-star recruit signing with the Trojans out of high school. I mean, this guy is just a dynamic runner. I mean, some of these runs, there's this one run, and I've shared it. It's just a random one from 2006 against Washington on a 4th down play where Keegan Herring just absolutely just blast by everybody. There's nobody within the same zip code of him by the time he's scoring. And that's what that run reminded me of. I mean, I would say Malik Brown, as far as like breakaway speed at the running back position, we might be talking Keegan Herring, nearly 20 years ago, as the most recent guy that I can put a comparison on. As far as like, once he just found that opening, it was over. And it was kind of funny. I don't know if it was the same in the press box, but in the stadium, they actually listed it as Kanye Udo scoring the touchdown.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, like on like the, just a little detail after the score. And I'm like, damn, okay, Udo's fast. Then I'm like, all right, well, it's Malik Brown. I'll take that too. But yeah, I mean, this is guy, he's come to play for sure. So that's someone, and that's going to be something interesting to monitor this week, because, if you get Kyson Brown back, I don't know if the staff if they kind of go by that thought process where you don't lose your spot due to injury, but man, you can't take the ball out of his hands. So it's a good situation to have. As for Jordan Tyson, yeah, that touchdown was incredible. And it was just varying levels of shock. Like, my goodness, I'm shocked that Sam Levitt was able just to get out of the pressure and get the ball off, and, jumping and throwing to a different side than his body momentum was taking him, just to get that off. Wow, that's amazing. Oh my goodness, Jordan Tyson caught it. That's amazing. And then the moves that he put on him, like, and there was another one, like, oh, cool, he got a few extra yards. Oh my goodness, he's going to score. And it was, they replayed it in the stadium, and pausing on that moment where you could just see that little smidge of grass between his foot and the out of bounds line. And man, JT has got some footwork. I mean, that this guy has got those things down that are really going to help you at the next level. I mean, that is just why we're seeing an elite level wide receiver. I mean, as far as national, as far as what he could accomplish this year and what he could do beyond that, I mean, it's been a long time since ASU has had someone that's, because I think N'Keal Harry, if I'm not mistaken, was the first round pick at wide receiver since like Aaron Cox in the 80s. I know they went back to back with Harry and Ayuk, but I mean, at the wide receiver position, as far as that high elite level stuff, I mean, nothing is off the table for Tyson. And these plays are still absolutely magnificent, even though it almost becomes just old hat with him because he's seen it so much. So it's great to see those connections going and seeing these playmakers thrive and getting some new ones involved, like the tight end position. Still more to do there, but again, it was a good win and a sign of progress.
Yeah, but Shimon Mateer, 6 catches, a career high, 60 yards, and his score, a nice 27-yard catch and run. Good downfield blocking, but overall, I think good for the offense, except for the pass protection. We saw it against NAU, so maybe some warning signs like, why are they getting some disruptive, pass rush going against what should be a pretty veteran ASU offensive line, and try to hand wave it away. Oh, they exotic schemes, but just it's been 3 weeks now and kind of it's not getting better. No, obviously they're doing pretty well on the ground, so that's good there. But that is a little bit concerning to me. And overall the defense, obviously the big plays with their undoing at Mississippi State, but against Texas State, just one pass allowed over 15 yards, and that went for 19. And you hold a pretty potent Bobcat offense to basically single digits until garbage time. That's also pretty good. You mentioned the 5 sacks, the most since the Colorado game in 2023, 10 TFLs. There was a little concern though. The run defense, which had been really good the first 2 games, gave up 157 yards and 4.2 yards per carry. Those are sack adjusted numbers, of course, with the way NCAA does stats. But that's not necessarily the best performance, because again, this is like a good, like a B plus ish game. Like wasn't wasn't perfect, but it was still, I think, from both sides of the ball, a very solid, encouraging, but not totally calming effort.
Yeah, I'd say even B minus, just because there's some areas that are like, man, like still areas of concern. And that Lincoln Perry, I mean, he can run. He reminded me a little bit of Scat out there. I mean, he's got some Scat-ish qualities.
Yeah.
So again, it's a very well coached team. I was thinking myself, man, GJ Kinney should go to Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State should ditch Gundy. I'm not saying tomorrow, but that played in Tulsa. That would make a lot of sense to me. This is a guy that, with just being able to get Texas State to be somewhat, relevant and a winning team, going to bowl games and getting talent, even if you lose it, getting other guys and still being a competitive team. Just great coaching effort by what Kinney does at Texas State. But yeah, so even like in the past game, Bo Sparks, he got his numbers. He got 10 catches, but only had 70 yards. They only averaged.
A key fumble too on a 3rd down, which would have been a first down conversion, but Keith Abney said no.
Yeah, so they were able to keep the star guys in check. They lost a few fumbles. They did get in for 3 sacks. So it's just something where there again some very good and some things that are, we'll see how concerning they are. Again, the best way I can summarize it is step in the right direction, but none of that's going to matter. It just matters what ASU puts on the field this Saturday and beyond.
Yeah, and before we close out, I guess just some mixed bag effort there on the special teams front. Jesus Gomez nailed both of his kicks, showing off that strong leg. But man, that we really should start tracking the penalty and what the penalties and what they've undone. Because Jaron Hamilton, he caught the ball this time on a kick return, took it 98 yards to the house, but that was called back due to a flag. So it was very unfortunate there. And then starting punter Canyon Floyd, who held on snaps in the kick game on Saturday, but did not punt due to a quad injury, as Kenny said after the game. That opened the door for Matt McKenzie, who had a rough debut, just 2 kicks, but 33 and 38 yards. If Floyd's going to miss some time, you need McKenzie to step it up.
Yeah, and one that was deep in the end zone, didn't go too terribly far. I mean, it was generally inconsequential for this, but when you get against this week, you get an offense like Baylor's, you simply cannot afford to give them a field, 20 yards shorter than you should give them based on what you'd expect for your punter to do. And so we'll see, because Canyon Floyd was punting real well in those first couple games, especially the opener. So that's someone that you really want him to be out there just for general purposes. But again, facing the explosive offense that ASU is going to face this weekend. And I mean, the Big 12 is a pretty heavy offense conference in the first place. So you want to see Floyd back out there. Yeah, McKenzie, a learning experience, and hope there are better days ahead for him. It wasn't some complete disaster, but just a little bit of a noticeable step down. Now, before we jump into our Know Your Enemy segment for the week, this one right here, it's for the homies. If you want a restaurant as passionate about supporting Sun Devil athletics as you are, you got to make Burrito Express your local burrito joint. Burrito Express began with a vision, a family-run Mexican restaurant serving authentic food with fast, friendly service and deep community roots, making Burrito Express a true multi-generational, family-led legacy. From the beginning, it's always been about flavor, family, and the people they serve at Burrito Express. Burrito Express is more than just a place to eat. They're part of the neighborhood, and as you know by now, a strong figure in the Sun Devil community. From day one, they've focused on bold flavors, fast service, and real connections with the communities that they serve. It's that mix of quality, culture, and care that makes Burrito Express different. Burrito Express delivers bold flavor, fast service, and hometown pride in every bite. Order online for pickup or delivery and fuel up with real deal burritos made fresh daily across the valley. You can visit any of their 9 locations, 2 of which are fast and fresh restaurants located in Circle K stores. You can find Burrito Express in Tempe, Scottsdale, Chandler, Gilbert, and Queen Creek. Most locations are open from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday and 8 to 3 on Saturday and Sundays, while some locations are open 6 to 3 during the week and 7 to 3 on weekends. Check them out online at theburritoexpress.com and follow them on social media at BurritoEXP on Twitter and Instagram, Burrito Express AZ on TikTok, and on Facebook at facebook.com/yourlocalburritojoint.
Joining us now to preview Baylor and what they're going to be bringing to the field on Saturday night is Zach Smith, who covers Baylor for the Waco Tribune-Herald. Zach, thanks for coming on the show. How are you today?
I'm doing great. It's always good to talk some football. I think I know Baylor's excited for this game. It should be a really good one.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, a lot of excitement with conference play kicking off. And, as we start things off, kind of looking at the first 3 games for Baylor. Of course, the home loss to Auburn, followed by that thrilling comeback win over a ranked SMU team. And then last weekend, taking care of Samford. What's kind of your general evaluation so far of this 2025 season for the Bears?
Well, I think that's a difficult question in some ways because on one hand, Baylor's offense has been just out of this world good. Sawyer Robertson and all these receivers for Baylor have really just kind of continued what we saw at the end of last year when, they were probably one of the hottest teams in the country, ending the season on a 6-game winning streak. And they've really kind of not let off the gas in that front. Even if, last week against Samford, a winless FCS opponent, I think there was some loss in focus on the offensive side of things, and maybe it was a step back, but like that part of things is just like, you can't get much better, But then on the other side of the ball, the defense has seemingly regressed from what was a not very good defense a year ago. There were plenty of issues. I think back to that Texas Bowl game against LSU, where, they just got torched. And then you look at the first couple games of this season and they're just giving up boatloads of yards on the ground and getting beat with big chunk plays against SMU. So I think overall, I still think there's a sense of optimism in Waco that Baylor still can kind of accomplish the goals that it wants to, but it really depends on kind of what side of the coin you fall on. You look at the offense, which is really good, or the defense, which is really bad. And the answer is probably somewhere in the middle, but it's kind of a complex answer to your question, but there's really not a through line with this team so far this year.
Well, let's start off with the good, and that's certainly on the offensive side. Quarterback Sawyer Robertson is putting up some big-time numbers, a lot of early season Heisman buzz surrounding him and his performance. What makes him such a special quarterback?
He can do just about anything. Last year, we really saw that he was able to throw the deep ball. He was able to hit those big shots over the top, and just kind of make the plays when Baylor needed it the most. This year, he's been throwing a lot less deep balls. There have been a few, but he's really kind of taken what the defense has given him, and he's finding players in space. He's finding players over the middle, and he's just kind of dinking and dunking his way down the field more. And that's really just helped the offense chug along and get in a rhythm and do the thing. So really, and I have to give him credit. He's a lot more physical he can run the ball too. He's a bigger dude. He can see over the line just fine. He can throw the ball clearly, but when he needs to, he can take off. And I think over the last couple games, you've started to see him use his legs a little bit more. So he's really the complete package. And we kind of knew that at the end of last year, but this year, he's just kind of just hopped right back on that train and kind of just done everything that Baylor expects him to do. So he's what is going to carry Baylor as far as they want to go this year.
Looks like he does a good job spreading that ball around. 5 guys entering this weekend with double-digit catches on the season. Some returning faces, some new faces in that overall pass catcher group. Who are the names that this ASU secondary's got to know?
Well, the big one is Josh Cameron. He's kind of his favorite guy. He's a former walk-on who really just really wanted to come to Baylor and has made the most of his opportunity. He broke out last year. He had 10 touchdown catches. He's Ben Sawyer's favorite target the entire time. And then right behind him, I have to say Ashton Hawkins. Ashton had a interesting offseason. They thought he was going to come back. And then all of a sudden the NCAA said, all right, you're out of eligibility. And so he kind of spent most of the offseason in limbo, but he didn't leave the team, or he still stuck around and practiced and everything. And eventually he was cleared for just a bevy of reasons. And so he's probably number 2. And there, Josh is a big guy. He can catch anything. He's got big hands. Ashton is a real good like slot receiver. And then 2 transfers, Kobe Prentice from Alabama and Cole Wilson from Texas State. Both of them are quick, small, and they have done a really good job so far this season of route running and kind of just getting open. I think Kobe has 10 catches and 4 touchdowns, so he's really again making the most of his moment.
And it's certainly not one-dimensional, as the Bears have been pretty good running the ball, especially running back Bryson Washington, averaging over 100 yards a game so far. What makes him, so effective, kind of leading that Baylor rushing attack?
He is kind of the picture-perfect definition of a bell cow. He's got the strength and, the ability to be patient and kind of power through guys. But then he's a lot faster than you think. He's just a ripped dude. He, over here in Texas, high school football is everything. And he comes from this high school Franklin that just runs the slot tee, and they just run up and down the field. So he's been doing it since high school. And so he really has kind of a complete game. And I know he wasn't the best pass catcher out of the backfield. He's kind of started to do that a little bit more this year, I think out of necessity, because one of the number 2 receiver, Dawson Pendergrass, went down with the foot injury before the season started, a season-ending foot injury. So it's really Bryson and then some freshmen behind him. So he's kind of had to take on a bigger role and kind of do a little bit more than maybe he was even expecting coming into the year.
So with all these weapons, what does this Baylor offense like to do schematically? And then kind of on the flip side of that, if you're ASU DC Brian Ward, what kind of game plan are you trying to do or drawing up to kind of combat that?
If I'm Arizona State's defense, I'm trying to get as much pressure on Sawyer Robertson as possible, and just kind of dialing up blitzes and trying to overpower this offensive line. The offensive line was really good to end last year. They kind of found their 5 midway through the year, and now 4 or 5 of those offensive linemen are coming back. But if you look at the first game against Auburn, I have to say some of the Auburn guys are just big SEC dudes. But when they had success and kind of threw Sawyer off his game at times when those big dudes came off the edge and were putting a lot of pressure on him. So I think that that's the key. If you want to slow down Sawyer, you got to bring a lot of pressure. But he's so far been pretty good at picking that up most of the time, and either scrambling out and using his legs to then pass. And so I think I expect a lot of pressure from Arizona State, and I think Sawyer does too. So I think that's the best way to slow down this Baylor offense.
A lot of ASU fans have been quick to point out that Baylor's run defense hasn't been performing too well so far this year. In the last game and a half or so, the Sun Devils have been really leaning on their ground game. Why do you think the Bear defense has been kind of struggling? As you kind of mentioned earlier, can maybe taking a little bit of a step back so far from last year?
It's been a difficult time for the defensive line specifically, really since the end of last season. Probably 2, at least high rotation guys transferred out. And then one of them who didn't play last year also transferred to Florida. He's actually the guy who, I don't know if you saw, who was spitting against USF. That's a former Baylor player.
Oh.
So they lost 3 kind of projected rotation guys in the transfer portal. And then before the season, one a highly rated 4-star sophomore was shot and killed in his hometown of Mississippi. So in his home state of Mississippi. So they really are just lacking depth along the offensive line. And then on top of that, their number one defensive lineman, Jackie Marshall, had a high ankle sprain against Auburn and really hasn't been 100% since. He's almost back to 100%. He played last week. We talked to him today. He's going to be playing against Arizona State, but really they have been just devastated with injuries and just departures along the defensive line. And it's I think the linebacking core and the secondary are better schematically than they were last year, but just that defensive front has been just decimated. And it's hard to win when you don't have a good defensive front.
What should ASU expect to see from a Baylor defense, from a scheme standpoint, and who are some of the key names to know across that defense?
Well, Dave Aranda loves his simulated pressures. This is year 2 of Dave calling the plays in Waco, and he's done plenty of that through the first 3 weeks. I think some names to look out for, certainly in the very center, is Keaton Thomas. He led the team in tackles last year. I think he was 25th in the nation in tackles. He is very clearly the emotional and vocal, and just he's the guy on defense. He's truly the quarterback of the defense, and he is really just a monster in the middle of the defense. And he hasn't been getting as much pressure on the quarterback this season, but he certainly has been a leader. And then I would say in the secondary, safety, Devin Bobby, he has been playing out of his mind this season. He's really, really good at kind of coming up into the box and stopping the run, or trying to stop the run, at least getting pressure on the quarterback. But he's also really, really good in coverage, and especially last week against Samford, especially in the first half, he had a really good game. So those are two guys that I really think should stand out for Baylor against Arizona State.
Who are some maybe under the radar guys, perhaps one on each side of the ball? Maybe, fans might know the Sawyer Robertsons or the Keaton Thomases of the world, but maybe it'd be a little, who's a under the radar player on each side of the ball that you think is going to ultimately play a big role in deciding Saturday's outcome?
Well, I mentioned behind Bryson Washington at running back, there are a bunch of freshmen. And one of them, Caden Knighton, he's a 4-star kid from Oklahoma. Coaches have been talking about him since the spring. Like, they were going to have him in the rotation, even if Dawson Pendergrass didn't go out with a season-ending foot injury. So, and he got his first rushing touchdown last week against Samford. He caught a touchdown against Auburn. But he is one of those guys that, whereas Bryson might have a little bit more of the thunder, he brings the lightning and the speed and the he's got some moves. He's made people miss, whether it's Auburn or Samford. He's made people miss. So I really think Caden Knighton, the running back, he might be poised to break out against Arizona State. And then on defense, there's a lot of people that could break out or should be able to have an impact. I'll say Amarian Winston. He's an Oregon transfer. He's an edge rusher. He's a junior. He came in with a lot of expectation. He didn't get a lot of playing time at Oregon, but he was coached by Coach Matt Powledge, who I think coached with Coach Dillingham at Oregon before coming to Baylor. And so I really think Baylor is going to continue to want to get pressure on the quarterback. And Amarian Winston, the edge rusher, he is another one of those guys similar to the Keaton Thomas vein that's always kind of the last guy out on the field, working hard, not afraid to speak his mind, whether that's positive or negative. And so I really expect him to continue to take a step and have a big impact in this game on Saturday.
All right, so last one for you. A lot of ASU fans are going to be making the trip out to Waco. What's the game day atmosphere like at McLean Stadium? And perhaps most importantly, what are the must-try food spots around town?
Put me on the spot with this one. This is a popular, everybody loves to eat in Waco. I will say there's more than you think. Waco, it's not just a go-between for Austin and Dallas. If you're going to come to the game, stay in Waco. Or stay near Waco. Don't stay in Dallas and drive down for the game. Stay in Waco because the river is beautiful, and it's much better than you might think. As far as food, that is a tough question. There's a burger spot. It's called Double R Burgers.
Okay.
It's a little off the beaten path. You got to go downtown and then a little west of downtown. Double R Burgers. That's one spot that I would say. If you want the kind of typical Waco place to go is George's. It's kind of your typical bar food, but they have something called the Big O. And they have really good onion rings. So get the onion rings at George's. Yeah, so there's plenty to eat in Waco. And then, I mean, you can't go wrong. Right downtown, it's kind of new. Terry Black's Barbecue. There's one in Austin. There's the original one out in Lockhart, which is not too far away, but the one downtown in Waco, it's pretty good. So those are three. And then as far as game day atmosphere, I mean, I know that I would say Waco and Phoenix or Tempe are probably two of the most different towns in terms of what you probably enjoy. You're not going to get a big party scene. There's not a big party scene here. So there's tailgating is not the best, but I grew up in Michigan, so I'm used to Big Ten stuff and all that. So that was a big kind of culture shock when I came down here. So I would say enjoy your time at George's. Enjoy your time at Terry Black's. Go have a drink at Southern Roots Brewery downtown, and then come to the game because you're not missing much if you're not getting there closer to kickoff. That's all I would say.
Well, awesome stuff. Zach, thank you so much for taking the time to share your expertise and insight into the Bears and the scene in across Waco. Thank you so much.
No problem. Anytime.
While many ASU stores have come and gone, Cactus Sports is a community staple. Founded, owned, and operated by ASU alumni since 1992, every purchase made through Cactus Sports results in royalties that help support Arizona State University. Now, many of their competitors have been bought out and operated by out-of-state corporations, while Cactus Sports stays locally owned and operated. They consider it a privilege to be able to work together with their guests, alumni, fans, and students who help give input for some of the products Cactus Sports buys. Now, when you purchase from Cactus Sports, not only are you assured of the highest quality, officially licensed merchandise, but you also have the satisfaction of knowing that you have truly helped support a local small business owned by Sun Devils. Cactus Sports is located at 514 South Mill Avenue in Tempe, opened from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and Sundays from 10 to 6, and often have different hours on home game day, so keep an eye out for that. You can also view their full inventory and shop online at cactussports.com with free domestic ground shipping for orders of $75 or more. Also, be sure to follow Cactus Sports on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Cactus Sports AZ, and on Facebook at facebook.com/Cactus Sports AZ. Well, all right, Brad. ASU won the Big 12 title near the end of 2024, and now that the calendar has flipped to 2025, ASU for the first time this season takes the field in Big 12 action. So of course, ASU is going to face Baylor for the first time since joining the Big 12. It's the second time all time that the two programs have met. ASU won 34-13 in a 1990 meeting that these two programs have had. But given the way that the schedule for the first year went, and this is obviously the first opportunity, Sun Devil fans will get to see head-to-head action with Baylor. So just, large scale before we break down the coach, the team, and all the personnel and the things we're going to be looking for. This is it's an interesting program over the last several years. They've had a lot of ups and a lot of downs, Yeah. They've had some elite play and Heisman Trophy winners and conference championships, and they've had, some disgrace and some big time losing seasons. And some of that has even been with the last handful of years. So this Baylor is a really interesting program because there is a way you can look at them as like, man, they're almost like an Oregon light as far as having this offense that can often just go. But then there's been some other things surrounding them and just erratic play on the field that has kind of kept them from really breaking through that glass ceiling into the next level.
Yeah, some very big success in recent years under Coach Dave Aranda, defensive mind, but now it seems like they've dialed back the clock a little bit to like some old school Big 12 because this is a very explosive offensive team who also can't stop anybody. So pretty interesting for a defensive-minded coach like Dave Aranda, but he had a tough year a couple years ago. Last year, the hot finish helped kind of stabilize the Bear program, and this is a year that they came in some expectations, some dark horse Big 12 title contenders. Saw them described as, they could they be the next Arizona State, and they're certainly equipped offensively to be in that conversation.
And you talked about Dave Aranda, head coach of Baylor. This is year 6 for him. It is his first head coaching gig. He was previously the defensive coordinators at schools such as LSU and Wisconsin. And I noticed, didn't really think about it until I was just kind of looking up his bio. He was Wisconsin's defensive coordinator in 2013. So, he was there on that sideline in Sun Devil Stadium on that wild night in that Joel Stave kneel that didn't really happen. So, a little bit of history between Aranda and ASU. He's 33 and 31 overall at Baylor. So just being a couple games over 500 just kind of explains his story there. Real erratic, 2-7 during that COVID season of 2020. But then they were 12-2 with a Big 12 title, Sugar Bowl win. They were ranked 5th in the country in 2021. Then they were 6-7 in 2022. Then they were 3-9 in 2023, as was ASU. Back up to 8-5 last year, which had Baylor in a tie for 5th place in the Big 12. And like you said, a lot of folks, myself included, really looked at this as a team that could, surprise people and maybe go on one of those runs. But what, the concern was entering the season is essentially been generally validated, is that this is a team that can play some high-level offensive football and some very low-level defensive football. And when that happens, you just kind of get a mixed bag, and that's what it's been so far. Baylor is 2-1. They lost 38-24 at home to Auburn to start the season, then a 48-45 double overtime win at SMU. Obviously a high-quality program there, and then a 42-7 home win most recently against a FCS opponent in Samford. So, again, like ASU, 2-1. Kind of odd how it happened that, they've lost at home but won on the road against a really difficult opponent. So again, still learning about them, just like folks are learning about ASU and a lot of teams across the country. But what we've seen so far is kind of what was expected: a talented team with a high-powered offense, but some defensive woes that really kind of kept them out of some games they might be able to win otherwise.
Yeah, offensively, a very familiar name is kind of running that offense, and their offensive coordinator Jake Spavital, who had some success on his resume and engineering high-powered offense. And we'll dive into the trigger man of that. But yeah, this is going to be a really interesting matchup on Saturday, just because I think you have another team like ASU just came off with a high-powered offense, big time struggles on the defensive side. Did ASU kind of learn stuff over the last game and a half about who they are, what they do best, and are they going to be able to replicate that success on the road in a big time conference opponent?
So starting with the Baylor offense, they averaged 38 points per game and 517 yards of total offense per game. That ranks 14th nationally. Starting things, talking about quarterback Sawyer Robertson, began his career at Mississippi State. It's in his 3rd year at Baylor. He is one of those many highly talented Big 12 quarterbacks, but as it is right now, he's standing atop them all, at least statistically. Last year, he had 3,071 passing yards, 28 touchdowns, just 8 interceptions, 230 rushing yards with 4 touchdowns. This year, he's averaging over 356 passing yards per game, 10 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 12 net rushing yards. He's 2nd nationally, 1st in the conference in passing yards and passing yards per game, tied for 2nd nationally with the most passing touchdowns. So those are some good numbers. It's some say if you ain't first, you're last, but being number 2 in this sort of context is pretty dang good. They have a lot of weapons offensively that we will break down. He is spreading the ball out a lot, but in order to do that, you got to have the talent to get there. And he's just I don't know if some might view him as like a under the radar type of quarterback. I don't know, but he's someone that in my book, just highly talented, very experienced, and someone you really got to watch out for.
Yeah, going back to his high school days, Kenny Dillingham a few stops ago recruited him, and so obviously he has a very high opinion of Sawyer Robertson, and he's a guy that can make plays with those legs. He can make some good decisions, and obviously with their defensive woes, he's had a lot of opportunity and the need to put a lot on his shoulders and pass his team to success. And by and large, he's been able to do that and making this Baylor offense just really one of the nation's best.
And though Robertson is up there nearly leading the nation in a lot of passing categories, Baylor has a tremendously talented starting running back, Bryson Washington, preseason all Big 12 running back. He had a breakout year last year, 1,028 rushing yards, 12 touchdowns, caught 22 passes with a touchdown reception as well so far through 3 games. He has 66 carries for 304 yards and 4 touchdowns. That's averaging 101 rushing yards per game, 6 catches for 24 yards there. So this is not just, I don't know, like Mike Leach era Texas Tech Big 12 team that just throws the ball a ton and runs very, very little. This is an offense that's very high powered, but also has balance to it.
Yeah, and their number 2 back suffered a season-ending injury, but they have a lot of very talented youngsters behind Washington. Freshman Caden Knighton's a name to watch, but yeah, Washington is a very productive guy. Kind of assuming that bell cow workhorse back role, and he's a guy that, as you mentioned, can not just run with authority and power, but also make some plays as a receiver.
And in the pass game, man, they really, really spread it out. Like I see these numbers for Baylor. I'm like, that would be awesome to see for ASU, that sort of distribution. They have 4 wide receivers with at least 10 receptions and a tight end in that same category. So 5 players, just 3 games that have at least 10 receptions. I know that might sound like a ton right now, but if you space that out over a full season, that's like 40 plus catches, which is pretty dang good. Ashton Hawkins leading the way, 17 catches, 257 yards, has yet to catch a touchdown, though. Josh Cameron, he's a really, really talented player. He was the first team all Big 12 pick as the return specialist last year and the preseason all Big 12 pick at that spot. A very talented wide receiver as well. 15 catches, 244 yards, 3 touchdowns. Cole Wilson has 13 catches for 182 yards. Kobe Prentice has 10 receptions for 117 yards and a team leading 4 touchdowns. Kind of coincidentally, both Hawkins and Wilson are former Texas State transfers. And I believe Cole Wilson played for them last year, if I'm not mistaken. And Prentice transferred in from Alabama. Then at tight end, Michael Trigg is a very, very good one. Previously of USC and Ole Miss, he's got 13 catches for 151 yards and a touchdown. So again, you've got 5 guys already in double-digit receptions, one of which being a tight end. So ASU in their defense and coverage and just making sure guys don't get by them and get blown up for big plays, they are going to be heavily tested this weekend.
Yeah, Josh Cameron and Ashton Hawkins, the guys who came back, had productive years a season ago for Baylor. They're back, augmented by a couple of those newcomers you mentioned. The Alabama transfer, Kobe Prentice, with his 4 touchdowns on just 10 catches. You wish ASU's Alabama transfer would be showing that kind of efficiency, but hey, still early in the season, a lot of time to go. But yeah, Cameron, bringing more physical presence. The other guys, kind of smaller, quicker mold. In terms of what their profile is. And Michael Trigg, I believe ASU was in his recruitment mix for a minute or so way back in the day before he made his couple stops.
The name sounded familiar when I was looking it up, and I don't know a ton about Baylor, so it wouldn't be from them. So probably that USC connection, that sounds right. Like it rang a bell for some reason, but not like because he plays for Baylor.
Yeah, and then they're also kind of leading the way for all of this. An offensive line had some issues against the pass rush, but 4 returning offensive line starters. Omar Ibedian, all Big 12 performer at right guard as well. But I think obviously this is going to be a situation where ASU's defense did a really good job of limiting the big plays a week ago, but they're going to be hard pressed to do that again on Saturday night.
So I know that breakdown of the Baylor offense probably sounds a little intimidating. There's a lot to it, a lot of wide receivers. You got a runner. So it's not just a team that you got to, like the old, again, Washington State or Texas Tech or insert name of a team that passes a ton and doesn't run much there, where you could just focus on that one dimension of things. You can't just focus on stopping the pass because they got a guy that can run the ball very well. That's all good. Flipping the page to the defense, and there are some things that are kind of like equally bad. So as a whole, the defense allows 30 points per game. They allow over 188 rushing yards per game with 7 rushing touchdowns allowed. That's something ASU needs to exploit. Their numbers are a lot better against the pass, 168 yards per game, 4 touchdowns. Quite frankly, I'm not sure if that's just because teams can run on them so well that they just don't pass as much.
And that's the thing. Yeah, I think Auburn in the opener really showed the script to just get the best of this Baylor defense.
Yeah, this isn't like like Iowa State last year. Because at that point, obviously, very, very accelerated point where it was at the Big 12 championship game where Iowa State's pass defense numbers were just through the roof, but their run defense wasn't great. That's just kind of like a different type of defense. With this, it's almost more strategic. They do have some talented players. Linebacker Keaton Thomas, one of the absolute best in the Big 12. Preseason all-conference guy, 31 tackles in 3 games, obviously over 10 tackles per game. Safety Devin Bobby has 16 tackles. Marion Winston, that name might sound familiar. I believe he transferred from Oregon, and ASU was in the thick of things. I think it might have been between ASU and Baylor, if I'm not mistaken, for the transfer portal. He leads the team with 3 tackles for loss and 2 sacks, 4 players tied with 1 interception. So you're seeing, again, not a ton of big plays in terms of the defense, not a lot of guys getting to the quarterback, not a lot of guys forcing turnovers, and that rush yardage and those touchdowns. I mean, again, they're allowing over 2 rushing touchdowns per game. And ASU ran the ball very well, and they're getting their starter back theoretically, and you have those 2 guys behind him who've each had 1 or 2 100-yard games in the absence of Kyson Brown. So that's going to be a huge area that ASU absolutely needs to, and you have to imagine should attempt to exploit a lot.
Yeah, I'm going to hit this point again. Like the Auburn template is right there. Right now, Baylor is 95th in the country in yards per carry allowed, and you just take their FBS opponents. They're giving up over 40 points per game, and they're not. Yeah, as you mentioned, they're not devoid of talent, but just collectively, this is a unit that, given the defensive chops that Dave Aranda has, you'd expect to be much further along. But this is, I think, where ASU in that second half against Mississippi State rediscovered their identity. They know that they are run first and then kind of play action off of that. I think that's just a tailor-made recipe to have success against this Baylor team.
It really is weird when a head coach of any sport guides a team that does not excel in the area that coach really excels in, and it's kind of the opposite. Dave Randy said he's like a defensive guy coaching a great offensive team, very lackluster defense. It's kind of, this is not like a shade move here. It's just a comparison. Like Bobby Hurley's teams for ASU of late, they've had some good defensive teams, and just a lack of like offensive flow, and that's struck me as always such a weird thing for a guy who is arguably the greatest point guard in college basketball history. You would think that offense would be clicking all the time. But I digress. We can complain about basketball season in a couple months. We've got some time. So before we move on to our keys for the game and how Brad and I see this one shaking out, if you like the content that you hear with us, that you see with us, then you also got to be a part of devilsdigest.com. Of course, as you all know by now, big news this offseason, Rivals and On3 coming together. So if you get a subscription to devilsdigest.com, you get content from both of those sites, depending on your focus on college sports, high school recruiting. They have everything for you. And specifically on Devil's Digest, you're going to get a ton of coverage of practices on game day, football, men's basketball, baseball, some hockey coverage, virtually everything you could want. If you're a Sun Devil fan, you will get on devilsdigest.com. And as I mentioned, you get premium content access across the Rivals and On3 networks. There's never a bad time to be a subscriber to devilsdigest.com. And if you're not yet one, this is your sign to become one. If you've been wondering, is it worth it? Should I do it? Should I take that plunge? Go on, take that plunge. Get to devilsdigest.com. Become a subscriber today. All right, Brad. So I'm going to go with a few repetitive ones, but they also apply. So I'll let you get started.
All right. So my number one key, win the time of possession with the run game. Just follow that Auburn template. It's just pretty simple. You run the ball. You've had great success running the ball. Your run game is in your backfield is going to get likely get some reinforcements with Kyson Brown. You have a very mobile quarterback. You have Raleek Brown, one of the most electrifying players in the conference. You have Kane Udo, who can blow the doors off a defender with his power. You got a defense that really is having a big time problem stopping the run all year. And you have an offense that you don't want or an opposing offense you don't want on the field. So run the damn ball. Keep Sawyer Robertson on the sideline watching it.
Run the ball. That is my first one. I mean, if I see ASU in the first possession they have of the ball, like throw the ball 3 times and go 3 and out, I will probably just vomit all over myself and just cry everywhere. It's like, have you learned nothing? But that's a very negative view. It's very encouraging, obviously, to see how ASU's game plan worked out against Texas State. The discouraging thing about that, we didn't really mention it in the game recap, but I strongly believe that if ASU would have just had the game plan that it had against Texas State and executed that against Mississippi State, they would have won that ball game because they would have had a much better first half and they would have won that game. However, yeah, you just use the running backs that you have. I mean, I want to see a ratio of, run to pass that heavily favors the run. I would be perfectly fine if Sam Leavitt threw the ball like 15 times in this game and ASU ran the ball, 40, 50 times, something like that. Like if we're seeing 2-3 guys getting double-digit carries, would be awesome to me. The script is right there. I mean, this is a Baylor team that's gotten decimated by the run. And ASU can run the ball, obviously, and they protect and block for the run game much better than they do for the pass. So everything just it's the old 8 ball. All signs point toward running the damn ball and doing that from the very beginning, because that's how you can demoralize a team, and especially on the road. I'm sure it's going to be a hyped up crowd. I'm sure that crowds still see ASU. I mean, and I'm not saying that they aren't, but I'm sure crowds still see ASU as the playoff team, as the defending Big 12 champs, because that's what they are. As well, they should. So that's a big deal. That's why, like Mississippi State made it a huge deal for their fans in that game. ASU's got a target on its back. It's a known commodity. Will it live up to that expectation this year? It remains to be seen. It's on the table. So if you can run the ball and just take the energy out of that stadium at an early point, that will help you dramatically.
And to my knowledge, Kenny hasn't made any comments on the hotel accommodations in the Greater Waco area.
That's, I guess, a smart idea.
Yeah, don't add any more fuel to that fire. My second key is B+2 in the turnover margin. ASU has not generated a ton of turnovers so far this year, at least at the rate. It's not been bereft of any turnovers like that weird 2023 season. But they got a couple last Saturday. Keith Abney had that great punch out that Rouser recovered, and then later on the fumble. Now, Sawyer Robertson's not a guy who makes a ton of mistakes, but he can get a little bit rattled if you get that pass rush going. And a great way to keep him off the field, or to limit the success, is keep him off the field. So I want to see ASU's defense continue that aggression, that they did a really good job keeping things in front, but also swarming to the ball, being active with those hands. And I think that this could be a situation where you're able to steal possession here or there and be plus in that category. That's going to be a huge boost to pulling off that road win.
Again, kind of similar, and this is a repeat, I think, from every single week so far, maybe dating even back to last year. Attack the quarterback, get to the quarterback. ASU obviously did a much, much better job last week of getting in the backfield with the sacks and TFLs that they had. This is a very good quarterback. He has a lot of options that he can throw to, and they are all very good. The absolute worst thing that ASU can do is allow him time in the pocket just to pick his spots. As Brad mentioned, you got to force some turnovers, and pressuring the quarterback is generally how you get there. So that is going to be a very important thing for Arizona State to do, because even if they're able to run the ball, even if the Baylor defense is, floundering as we think it may, and if ASU is able to chop up a lot of yards on the ground against them, it's not going to add up too much if Baylor is able to just move its way down the field with the run and the pass, but especially getting to Robertson, causing some turnovers. Again, when you're on the road, you got to take away some possessions. He's a very efficient and effective quarterback. So ASU's defense really needs to game plan a way to get to him. Hopefully Jordan Crook can have another, defensive player of the week type of effort. If he's getting the backfield like that, that will help a lot.
All right, my final key is to continue to feed those tight ends. Now, obviously, Shimon Mateer had that huge game, career high with his 6 catches. We also saw, Kamari Anderson make his Sun Devil debut on the stat sheet. Cameron Harpole would have had a touchdown with a better throw from Sam Levin early in that game and that first quarter. But those tight ends are very talented. We've seen AJ Ia now. He's back from that foot ankle injury. He's now been playing a little bit, made his debut. He could be a factor as well with that unparalleled size that he brings. This is an offense that loves playing with tight ends. We'll see if Jalen Moss is going to make his return to the slot for ASU. But in his absence, they've been running a lot of 12 personnel. So love to see that continue, because that has been obviously a big part of the success in the ground game, especially with Mateer's excellent blocking. But man, just having those weapons along the seams, I think, could be a differentiator for this game.
Nick Kamari Anderson's due for a breakout game. Shimon had his last week. It'd be awesome to see something for Anderson this week. My final key is to finish drives. There have been encouraging drives where ASU gets into the opponent's territory, and then things just kind of fall through, and that happens. It's not like it's some epidemic, but again, facing a high-powered offense like this, if you get the ball to the Baylor 35, 40-yard line, you have to get points. Like every single time, you got to get points when you're in those circumstances, because Baylor's going to get theirs. You cannot miss opportunities for points when you get the ball past the 50-yard line. Knock wood, because we got to be superstitious about this stuff. The kick game has been great with Jesus Gomez, so you feel like mean, gosh, anything inside 60 yards feels like you have some confidence with him for the most part, especially inside like 55. But it's going to be such a big deal for ASU to capitalize on those drives, because if they are, stalling a little bit or getting, turnover on downs when they're going forward around the 40-yard line, something like that, that could come back to haunt them.
All right. Prediction time. As I mentioned, Baylor's having a very early 2010s type of Big 12 season. I think this game is going to follow that script. Now, last year I had some last week, I should say, that I had a lot of questions about ASU in terms of, Sam Levitt. How is he going to respond now that he's struggling coming off a bad game? Is he going to be able to rebound? And, obviously a lot of scrutiny coming his way. I thought he, as we discussed, did pretty well. One of the things that I have questioned this team is how are they going to be able to kind of respond on the road? ASU is a very good home team under Kenny Dillingham. They haven't lost since that 2023 season in Tempe. Now, on the road, there have been some tense moments and some losses, as we know. I think this game is just going to be kind of a shootout. I think the defense is not necessarily going to get carved up, but Baylor's just really good. They try hard too. There's going to be some plays. Also, I think ASU has a lot of playmakers at their disposal. I think it could be one of those who's got the ball last, or who makes perhaps a big time defensive play, snags a pick late or something like that. Until I see it happen with this 2025 group, I'm giving the edge to the home team, Baylor 38-35.
A lot of similar sentiments. I think ASU's offense will have its success. I just don't know about a potential shootout, more or less, especially it being on the road. If this game were in Tempe, I think I might be inclined to kind of switch my prediction for the game in terms of the winner and the loser. But I'm in that same boat, what you just said, as far as it's a wait and see, and I got to see it happen, in real time. And I just am concerned about ASU being able to stop Baylor's offense enough, or at least being able to compete, blow for blow with the offense. I think it's going to be a game that has some encouragement to it, but there really aren't too many moral victories that I think Sun Devil fans will be okay with. So I can't imagine, a loss ends up in any sort of positivity. And right now I'm going to call a 38-31 Baylor victory.
All right. So before we close things out with a good chat with Man Robinson, who made his debut last week.
Good chat with Man Robinson, and it's always good to support Sun Devil Family Charities, a 501c3 nonprofit organization created primarily for the purpose of raising funds to provide financial assistance to Arizona State University alumni, students, staff, and immediate family members adversely affected by medical issues. Their SDFC Cares program allows qualified individuals to request financial assistance by completing an application and submitting verification of medical expenses, which are then evaluated by their patient services committee. So basically what they do here, what we've told you about for a very, very long time, is Sun Devil Family Charities helps those in need within the Sun Devil community. So if you or someone that someone that you love is facing a financial hardship due to a medical issue, and if they've got some connection to Arizona State University, Sun Devil Family Charities might be able to help them out with some financial support. Monetary donations are always appreciated and support those in need due to unexpected medical conditions. They also have volunteer and sponsorship opportunities. Those are available on the Sun Devil Family Charities website, which also contains a great deal of information and how you can apply for their services. And that website is sundevilfamily.org.
All right. So next up, you'll hear from ASU freshman running back Demarius Man Robinson. All right. So seeing some first action up there on the field on Saturday. You run out there onto the field. You're going to get the ball on that carry. What are the thoughts going through your head?
Just play my football, really just, so I've been playing football for a long time now, so, just really get the experience to play college ball and do what I do best.
What did it mean to you to just get out there and get to, I think, the 5 carries overall, and just get in the game like that?
It was a special feeling, especially going out with my teammates, how hard we worked through the summer and winter and stuff like that, just enjoying the time and the moment with them, really. I was really happy, smile on my face when I got out there with them, so it was pretty good, great environment, saw the fans. Pretty crazy. I was a little nervous, but it was fun overall with my teammates.
All the family and friends back in Oklahoma, they're blowing your phone up?
My mom, my siblings, my pops, they all blow me up, showing love. I love them.
What did it mean to get out there and close out a win like that? Obviously cut the heartbreaking loss a week ago, but come back and get a really solid overall win.
It was a great feeling, I know what we can do, it's a great team, brotherhood, we know what we need to do, we got to come out here and work every day like we always do.
Kenny Dillingham praised you during his Monday press conference, said that, when talent meets somebody who cares as much as you do, that's a good path to get playing time early on. What's the kind of the root of it, just caring so much and, putting, obviously people can be talented, but to put in the work and the care behind that, it kind of takes it to another level.
Yeah, I really love this game. I care about it. That spring ball, I had trouble with ball security, and I really just want to get on the field as much as I can, whether it's special teams or not. I care about it, and I care about the team. Anything to make, help the team out. So, I really just care about the game and football. I really love it. Anything I can do for the team, I'll do it.
What are some of the big things that you've been taking away from some of the veteran backs in that running back room like that?
Make sure you just be patient. This whole game is just patience. Really, just waiting your turn. The opportunity gonna come when it do come. Make what out of it. But learning from Silk, Kanye, Leap, it just made me better and, mentally and physically when I'm playing football.
Facing a Baylor team on the road, what are some of the things that kind of jump out to you about this Baylor Bear defense so far?
Really great defense. Really great defense. I can't wait to, see what they got for our offense, but we ready to compete, do what we do best every day, and that's just play hard.
What are going to be some of the keys to get a big road win on Saturday?
Just play as a team. Be focused, be physical, do what we do best, like Coach Dilly said.
And that's going to do it for this episode of Speak of the Devils. I'd like to thank our guests, Zach Smith, Keyshaun Elliott, and Demarius Robinson. This week's game will kick off at 4:30 Arizona time. That's 6:30 in Waco, 7:30 East Coast, TV on Fox. And make sure you stay with the show on the social media side. You can follow the show on Twitter at SOTD Podcast, on Instagram at Speak of the Devils, subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Facebook, and give me a follow on all things social at BDenny29.
Feels like it's a week by week evaluation of the TV broadcast crew, because it sounds like TNT did a pretty there were pretty good responses from TNT after the whole ESPN Plus debacle.
Yeah, the JB Long was a great play-by-play guy during his time with Pac-12 Network. Mike Golick Jr. is awesome just in general. So you put those two together, and as long as the signal was
step one, you can see the game.
Yeah, there
you go. And then follow me, Joe Healey 42.
All right. So once you're done supporting all our amazing sponsors, make sure to drop us a 5-star review on the podcast platform of your choice. We will be back next week as we recap what happened against Baylor and look ahead to some Friday Night Lights action against TCU.